Welcome to Self Wellness.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Maha with Mike, where we're going to be talking about making yourself healthy, but more importantly, focusing on what we can do to make America healthy. Our first guest, you guys have seen him before. He will be coming on, that is the great Brian Hooker, to talk about vaccines, the conversation around vaccines and vaccine safety. More importantly, not only are we going to talk about vaccine injuries, but we're going to talk about how they're reported, how they're recognized, and too often ignored. And to unpack this, Dr. Brian Hooker, not only a respected biologist and a researcher, but he's also an advocate who has spent decades studying the science behind these vaccines. Later in the show, we're going to bring in attorney Tom Renz, and he is going to be sounding the alarm for the Genius Act, which is a growing push for the central bank digital currencies. And I see this as a slippery slope towards government overreach, because when they take away your ability to spend cash, every single thing is tracked. And he's going to walk us through the legal and constitutional concerns of these institutions and how they're shaping our lives without our consent. But before that, we're going to roll a quick clip, and then we're going to be bringing in Dr. Brian Hooker. Drake, go ahead and roll that clip for the audience.
My son requires 24/7 care, and his severe dyspraxia means that he is a prisoner in his own body, a body that betrays every time he tries to execute any intentional task, such as eating, talking, walking, grabbing, or grasping any object. He also suffers excruciating chronic pain due to gut dysbiosis and neuroinflammation. Nobody wants to see their child go through chronic debilitating pain. My son will never pay taxes. He will never hold a job. He will never play baseball. He will never write a poem. He will never go out on a date. He needs assistance despite his best efforts and despite his best wishes. He needs assistance toileting every time. Society does not want to acknowledge vaccine injury, period. Our story is not welcome in the news media, and social media completely censors us. My family has been gaslighted repeatedly, and my son's medical history has become fodder for AstroTurfers blogs, as well as the CDC researchers armchair quarterbacking his vaccine injury case. My son's life has been ruined physically and emotionally, and he is persecuted by the mere fact that he exists. Life is hard, but Jesus Christ is good every day.
Beautiful. Well said. Dr. Brian Hooker, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. It's so great to be back on with you.
Yeah, so share with us, where were you testifying at? Where was that at?
Well, that was a Senate hearing for the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. The subcommittee is chaired by Senator Ron Johnson, who is a great friend to the Health Freedom Movement and a senator from Wisconsin. He has hosted the hearing, and we were able to feature five different families and individuals that had gone through vaccine injuries, all who testified. And then the minority side had two individuals who had lost a close relative due to infectious disease, in this case, the flu. So this was really an amazing opportunity. Mike, we just don't get this type of opportunity to talk about vaccine injury, the prevalence of vaccine injury, and the excruciating stories behind vaccine injury.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think that is really incredible, Dr. Brian, is we live in a world now where we have such a profound reach because of Instagram and Twitter and our inner circles. And I like when I'm able to go. Unfortunately, it's sad to see that it's happened, but when you go on like an Australian news website and they're talking about like sudden death, right, or a super rise in super aggressive cancers, and you go
Right.
and read the comments, and all of the people that are like in the comments are like doing the emojis of an inoculation or a jab, or they're using the word vaccine with an at symbol and a backward C so it doesn't get flagged by the algorithm. But when you get hundreds of comments of these people, those aren't bots. You click on their profile, you can see that they're real people. People are starting to understand that pharma has put profits above people. And that is 100% the case, because when you talk about vaccine injury, and I think you and I both know that in September, if Senator Robert F. Kennedy does meet his quota, I think we're going to find out how devastating aluminum and metals are, especially mercury. And now we've now found out that there's high levels of glyphosate. And when you look at your son, right? All of the sensory issues that he has, the chronic inflammation, like no wonder why you're pissed off.
Oh yeah, no, it's difficult. My son's actual injuries were about 26 years ago, and so just digging it up and rewriting the testimony, Mike, it's like you're mad all over again. Given the preposterous nature that we are poisoning our children with these shots that they're receiving, not only at the youngest ages, first day of life, they receive at least 300 micrograms of aluminum through the hepatitis B shot. And then now with prenatal shots where they have the possibility of receiving both mercury and aluminum at the same time, depending on how they get their flu shot and DTaP shot, which of course are on the CDC recommended schedule still. And with the combination of aluminum and mercury, not only are they toxic alone, but they are synergistically toxic. So the combination of putting them in utero into a developing unborn child is cataclysmic.
Yeah, and not only is it cataclysmic, but we're talking about a generation of children now that are going to be exposed to vaccines that your son and our children were never exposed to with these mRNA shots. And we have zero idea what the 10, 15, 20-year side effect is going to be of these new bioweapons, because of the fact that we were promised in the very beginning. Remember when they came out, they're like, it's going to stick in the arm, it's going to stay in the injection site, and it's going to create antibodies. And now it's gone from head to the toe. And we have personal family members. I have extended family where there's been zero issues of glioblastomas in the blood and the brain, and then people go out and get the COVID vaccine, and 6 months later they've got the bioweapon, that's going through every square inch of their body. And then not only that, did you hear the story about there was like, I want to say it was either in Wisconsin or maybe it was in Iowa, but there was a hospital where like 11 nurses who all worked on the same floor got like the same type of breast cancer.
Yeah, I've heard that story as well. The thought of putting that type of genetic code into your body and basically making genetically modified people and now genetically modified children, and then giving the vaccine in utero, so you have genetically modified neonates, infants, it's beyond Brave New World. It's beyond 1984. What they've done to society. And when you look at individuals now that have been producing spike protein continuously in their body for over 2 years, you have to really, you have to start to realize and come to grips with that they have been genetically altered for life. that genetic alteration, the things that they said, Mike, like you said, oh, it will stay up in the upper arm. It won't go on the body. It won't be integrated into, your own genetic code. All those things are patently false. And, they knew, and we knew all of those things were patently false when the vaccine first came out. And to me, to see that and to see the vaccine technology or quote unquote vaccine technology, it's not a vaccine, it's a gene therapy, being rolled out not only in that format, but also in what's called self-amplifying messenger RNA format that can shed to bystanders very, very easily. This is an RNA strand that will continue to replicate in your body and in whatever human host cell that it runs into. There are vaccines that are on the slate for approval by the FDA with the self-amplifying technology, not only for COVID-19, but also for H5N1 influenza. Again, preposterous. Shots are not needed for these bioweapons that are also being created by the same people that are creating the vaccines, but yet they still are being rolled out.
We're just going to run to a quick short commercial break, and then I'm going to pick your brain on the vaccine global industry net worth and why it's rising instead of declining. We'll talk as soon as we get back.
If you've ever walked into a room and forgotten why, or struggled to recall someone's name, you should know you're not alone. And it's not your fault. According to new research, memory loss after the age of 40 isn't just aging. It's a warning sign that your brain's mitochondria, those little energy factories, are actually dying off. That's why I want to tell you guys about NeuroThrive, a breakthrough brain formula trusted by over 32,000 adults. It uses 7 powerful ingredients, including PQQ, Bacopa, and alpha GPC to regrow those little mitochondria and bring your memory back to life. Right now, Critical Nutrition Labs is doing something wild. Buy one, get 2 bottles free. That's right, guys. Buy one, get 2 bottles free just to clear out the excess extra bottles that they over-ordered. You'll feel sharper, more alert, and confident again, or your money back. Go to neurothrive.org/Maha. That's neurothrive.org/Maha to claim the offer before they run out. Hey guys, Maha Mike here. I've got some exciting news for you. Our new partners at Farm Easy Bank are leading the way in affordable, trustworthy healthcare, bringing an impressive lineup of generic medications at prices that your family can actually afford. Not only that, but they are now offering ivermectin and fenbendazole, 2 compounds that are gaining attention, and unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you've probably heard about their incredible benefits. You can trust every single order that you get from Farm Easy Bank. Why? Because they come from reputable, reliable sources, and their commitment to quality means you get the same effectiveness you'd expect from the big box store without the outrageous price tags. In fact, you can save up to 80%. That's right, 80% compared to traditional pharmacy prices. On top of that, they offer fast, discreet shipping to the comfort of your home. And the best part is, you can use the coupon code MAHA2025 for 20% off any order over $199. This is a limited time offer, so don't wait. Take control of you and your family's health today. And stock up, because you would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So go to Farm Easy Bank, that's PharmEasyBank.com/Maha and start your wellness journey with trusted support and serious savings.
So, Dr. Brian, according to IMARC, the vaccine industry is worth over $60 billion, and by 2033, it's supposed to double. So my question to you is if there's a $60 billion price tag on vaccines, what do you think's the price tag on vaccine injuries? I've had so many parents with autism say that by the time their child was 10 or 15 years old, they'd already spent $250,000 dealing with the autism. And some people even more than that, depending on therapies, modalities, speech therapy, and doing pathology, stool samples, blood samples, and we're having parents out there that have such rare conditions that they sometimes spend 10 years just to even get a diagnosis.
You couldn't be more right, Mike. The chronic disease is big business, and we're being sickened on purpose with vaccines, with prophylaxis, with interventions, because big pharma can get you coming and going. The same vaccine manufacturers, by the way, many of the vaccine manufacturers are serial felons. They've already been charged. The companies themselves have been charged with felony criminal charges. You shouldn't trust them for anything that you put into your body. It's like saying, I'm going to have green tea from an axe murderer. No, don't do it. But the same manufacturers that are manufacturing vaccines are pushing Risperdal and Abilify for our children with autism. So those markets can go up. But the cost of caring for these individuals, not calculated by me, but calculated by the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. In the only autism case that they've ever compensated for vaccine injuries, that was the case of Hannah Poling. The settlement was for an estimated $20 million that would be the payout over the lifetime of Hannah Poling. So you take the number of individuals at that particular point in time that were claiming an autism injury, which is just a fraction of the total. That would have been 5,500 individuals that also had autism claims that were tossed out of Vaccine Corps, like my son. Then that would have been a payout of $110 billion. It would have bankrupted the Vaccine Injury Fund, which was about $5 billion at the time, over 24 times. And so, when you look at these numbers, and that's really small scale, there are millions of people who have been injured by vaccines globally, nationally. You look at the number of vaccine injuries now associated with the COVID-19 shot are unlike anything that we've seen before. And so, this is cataclysmic. We're talking about trillions of dollars to clean up this mess.
And you want to know where my brain goes, and Dr. Brian Hooker, you can call me out on it if I'm overreaching here, but when I think about Johnson & Johnson and sunscreen, and then them having the answer to this cancer that was caused by the sunscreen. And then you go and you talk about Purdue Pharma, right? Remember the big issue with the Oxycontin? They got all these people addicted, and then they came up with buprenorphine, or the thing that can help you get off of the opioid. Another big example would be, I was just thinking about this with all the farmers yesterday. I was at a locals farmer market. I was thinking about Monsanto, or which is now Bayer. They created and sold glyphosate, and then all of a sudden they had to have a solution for it. So they happen to have the genetically modified seeds that the farmers have to buy because they're resistant to too much glyphosate. And the list goes on and on and on, right? Think about Microsoft. They created a buggy, vulnerable software, which was targeted by hackers. And then next thing you know, they also sold the antivirus, right? How crazy is that now we have Bill Gates, who's got money invested in pharmacy and vaccines. And he even said that, on one of the shows recently, that he 10x'd his money on his initial investment.
I'm sure he did. You look at these are crazy times. These are business propositions for these big megapolies that are controlling and in bed with the federal government, with the globalists, in order to control the world. And these are people that really don't have our best interests at heart. You look at the white coats and you look at these pharmaceutical companies, and they've got, they always push the white coats right out, very much in front. Oh, we're going to take care of our health. The World Health Organization itself is not prioritizing human health. They've actually prioritized the health of the entire ecosystem really above human health. And so when you see, some of this nonsense and some some of this preposterousness, and they're pushing things on society as if it would be good for the individual. Nothing, Mike, could be further from the truth. And oligarchs like Bill Gates really do not belong getting 10x on their investment. They really belong in jail, if not under the jail.
And it doesn't stop there. We've got Nestle, who's now,
Right.
put more sugar inside of their formula than they've done in probably two or three decades. We're putting so much sugar inside of each children, and now we're wondering why these children are being born pre-diabetic. They're being born with type 1 diabetes. They're getting, children now who are getting brain inflammation at the ages of 15. It is a very, very scary time that we live in. And this is why shows like this are so important, to be able to educate people and to hear a story, to hear, like, you're a real person. You had a son
Exactly.
who was vaccine injured, and yet, like you said, you get vilified and they gaslight you, trying to say, oh, it was because of the type of cereal that you gave him, possibly. There are so many things that people will do to gaslight people, to say that it wasn't a vaccine. Or you've got parents out there who are in complete denial, where they're like, oh, autism just runs in my family. It wasn't the vaccine.
Exactly. You do not want to listen to those individuals. They and blaming the parents, has been just sort of a hallmark of these types of disabilities. It's, oh, you were too old when your child was born. You should have conceived when you were younger. Look, I was 34 when my son was born. That's not really old. Or, or you're fat. Or you're crazy. Crazy runs in your family. So crazy people have autistic kids. I've heard it all. I have absolutely heard it all, in terms of, and so much is designed basically to put individuals down that, by the way, are taking care of their wonderful special children 24/7. And so, it's not really likely for me to go up and lobby Congress. I just don't have that life. I don't have that lifestyle.
And that's another thing that most people don't think about, is when you talk about the cost of taking care of a vaccine injured child, too many people don't take into consideration the lack of income that you're able to make by working overtime, or the amount of time that you have to take out of your day because your child can't go and be in a normal school. Or people don't realize how much of an impact it has on your mental health, your sleep pattern. I can only imagine, it's like you've got a mother who has to breastfeed throughout the night, and after like 6 months, they look like they're ready to jump in front of a bus. Talk about a parent having to do that for the rest of their life, when you've got a child that's got night terrors, or wakes up and has to go to the bathroom, so they start screaming.
Right. It's a very, very difficult life. It's a very, very difficult lifestyle. As soon as my son got his diagnosis, my wife quit her profession, and basically the thing that she wanted to do as a career lifelong, so she could devote time to my son. I'm so thankful for that. But you give up your dreams, you give up your hopes. My son's given up his hopes and dreams. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that a child has 1,000 dreams, but a sick child has one dream, and that is to be well. And, so I look at the toll that it's taken even on my son and in his life. He did not deserve this. He did not ask for this.
Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Brian Hooker, I think that one of the things that we do really good at this show is we send good vibes out into the world, but more importantly, we believe in prayer, and we believe in true and infinite healing. So what I would like to do is, real quick, dear Heavenly Father, we lift up Dr. Brian Hooker to you today. We thank you for the strength, courage, and conviction that you've placed in his heart to speak truth and defend the voiceless. Lord, I want you to surround him with your mighty angels. Surround his property. Let no weapon formed against him prosper, dear Heavenly Father. I ask that you shield him from every scheme of the enemy, whether physical, spiritual, or emotional, whether it be legal. Let confusion fall upon those who plot against him, those who are coming to expose him for what he is doing in the right, and they're trying to point out the wrong. I ask that your light expose every hidden agenda against him, grant him discernment, wisdom, and an unshakable peace. Cover his family, his home, his work, his health, his divine protection. Let your favor go before him in every room that he enters and every platform that he speaks. Empower him to continue standing boldly, that his truth may surpass even the words that come out of his mouth, and that his heart will continue to heal and restore freedom. In the name of Jesus' holy name, amen. I will continue to pray for your son as well, because it's just absolutely devastating that there's zero accountability. And, I know that Bobby is working on getting some more transparency in this country, but that's 100% what we need. It's not just Epstein files. Okay. It is every single person who has plotted to poison our children, to poison our food, to poison our water, to poison our country. And, Tom Renz, the next guy that's going to be coming on, he's one of the bulldogs that's trying to expose this, and he is not going to stand down. Tom and I are two of those people that believe that if you cannot be bought, then the ultimate price that you're willing to pay is death.
Absolutely. I'm such a fan of yours, Mike, and also of Tom Renz. I followed his work really since the start of the COVID pandemic, and you can't ask for more more dedicated advocates. And like you said, who would go to the grave, defending the integrity, defending our bodily autonomy, defending health freedom, and defending those little ones that the Bible says, if you cause one of these little ones to stumble, it's better for you to have a millstone tied around your neck and be thrown in the sea. And I call out individuals who were covering up the relationship between vaccines and autism for years and years and years with that particular warning. I don't take those warnings lightly. It's not a threat. It is just what is written in the Bible.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing that we don't take into consideration is that is why that they are almost trying to rewrite the Bible. They're trying to remove passages. They're trying to say, oh, you know what, we're going to listen to the Old Testament, but not the New Testament. And it's so sad. It's so sad that when you go back and you look, Jesus had clearly spoken, and he had even told his disciples that if you go out and you do what I've done, the praying, the meditating, the fasting, and you do it in the name of Jesus, he had told his disciples, you can go out and heal people too, but you have to believe in me, and you do it in the blood of Jesus. But they want us so sick. They want our pineal gland fluoridated. They want our bodies filled with poison. They don't want us to fast. They don't want us to go out and touch the earth. They don't want us to know how close we are to our spiritual creator, which is why they want to put neurochips inside of people, which is why they want to go out and literally poison us.
This is a spiritual battle. And, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty for pulling down strongholds. And, I really encourage people to pray. I encourage people to fast, follow Jesus Christ as Lord, because this is a battle that we cannot fight with carnal weapons. It is absolutely an up battle. And Mike, I so much appreciate you praying for me and praying for my son, because we believe for his healing every day.
Absolutely, brother. Well, listen, we're going to run to a quick commercial break, and then I'm going to be bringing in the powerful attorney, Tom Renz, and we're going to dive into possibly the future of a cashless society. And I'm hoping that we're going to get this message out here and stop this from happening. But God bless you. God bless your wife. God bless your son. God bless your family. And we will get you a copy of this. So if you want to put it on your socials, you're more than welcome to share it, because we need to get this out to the people.
So good. Thank you very much.
God bless. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, Maha Mike here. I've got some exciting news for you. Our new partners at Farm Easy Bank are leading the way in affordable, trustworthy healthcare, bringing an impressive lineup of generic medications at prices that your family can actually afford. Not only that, but they are now offering ivermectin and fenbendazole, two compounds that are gaining attention, and unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you've probably heard about their incredible benefits. You can trust every single order that you get from Farm Easy Bank. Why? Because they come from reputable, reliable sources, and their commitment to quality means you get the same effectiveness you'd expect from the big box store without the outrageous price tags. In fact, you can save up to 80%. That's right, 80% compared to traditional pharmacy prices. On top of that, they offer fast, discreet shipping to the comfort of your home. And the best part is, you can use the coupon code MAHA2025 for 20% off any order over $199. This is a limited time offer, so don't wait. Take control of you and your family's health today. And stock up, because you would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So go to Farm Easy Bank, that's PharmEasyBank.com/Maha and start your wellness journey with trusted support and serious savings. If you've ever walked into a room and forgotten why, or struggled to recall someone's name, you should know you're not alone. And it's not your fault. According to new research, memory loss after the age of 40 isn't just aging. It's a warning sign that your brain's mitochondria, those little energy factories, are actually dying off. That's why I want to tell you guys about NeuroThrive, a breakthrough brain formula trusted by over 32,000 adults. It uses 7 powerful ingredients, including PQQ, Bacopa, and Alpha GPC to regrow those little mitochondria and bring your memory back to life. Right now, Critical Nutrition Labs is doing something wild. Buy one, get 2 bottles free. That's right, guys. Buy one, get 2 bottles free just to clear out the excess extra bottles that they over-ordered. You'll feel sharper, more alert, and confident again, or your money back. Go to neurothrive.org/Maha. That's neurothrive.org/Maha to claim the offer before they run out.
You guys know how much we love our attorneys on this show, especially when it's a powerful attorney like Tom Renz. We're going to be bringing him in to talk about whether we are possibly seeing the largest government overreach that we've ever seen in the entire world. Imagine waking up in the morning and every single transaction that you do from the moment you wake to the moment that you lay being tracked. That is literally what we're on the verge of with the Genius Act. And Tom Renz is going to join us right now to talk about why that should scare the bejesus out of every single one of you. Tom, welcome to the show.
How you doing, Mike?
Man, I am doing blessed. I am highly favored. I have been, experiencing miracles after miracles. I've been nursing my mom back to health after her primary care doctor of 17 years sent her home to die and told her that there was nothing that they could do. They called in hospice, and I said, "No way, Jose." And with the prayers of people like you and Dr. Edward Group and Judy Mikovits and Dr. Betsy Eads in Ormond Beach, Florida, we've been giving her, just basically a bunch of horse dewormer and a bunch of repurposed stuff. And the hospice lady came in about 3 weeks ago and was like, "We have never seen anybody that was in your mom's condition walk out of the bedroom and let alone go out to eat with her sister who flew in from California." But that's not what you and I are talking about today, but you asked me, so I figured I would take a moment just to share that.
That's great news. I mean, I'm glad to hear that, to be honest with you, Mike. It's crazy how much we can do when we start trying other things. Mainstream medicine's really about keeping you sick and keeping you on a big pharmaceutical and those sorts of things, as you and I have talked about extensively. So when we start looking beyond that, and I want to just throw this out there, and I know we're going to talk CBDCs, and we need to, they're critical, but I want to throw this out there. I keep seeing people, we watch kind of the cancer stuff and the cancer this and the cancer that, and I keep seeing people, young people, 20s, 30 years old, talking about, I'm stage 4, I'm giving up, there's nothing I can do. Listen, if you're stage 4, if you're dying of cancer, you need to try everything. Don't give up. Start looking at the alternatives. The alternatives, I mean, they're working frequently, and I would urge you to look at them much sooner than stage 4 if you can, but don't give up. Fight on, pray, stay strong. Look at every alternative out there because you've got nothing to lose. The one thing that you can't do is give up, though.
100%. And I think that's exactly what they want us to do, especially with what we're about to talk about now. They want us to think that this is the future, this is the only answer, and everybody's just going to conform, and if you look at what happened with the vaccines, it really woke a lot of people up.
100%. And there's a couple major things shifting in the world right now. The vaccines and the push to control your health from birth to death is one of them. You see the push for AI, and then you see this push to control your financial life from beginning to end. And you have to understand they're all related. I mean, the AI is going to control the medicine. It's going to control your financial. It's going to observe all this. It's going to dig into all that. I mean, the tools, and this isn't like an anti-AI crazy thing, although AI is a terrifying thing because we can't control it. The reality is, though, that AI is a very powerful tool that will be used. And now we're passing legislation that will allow groups like Palantir, which is being integrated into our federal government now, to use AI systems to truly track and trace everything you do. And the integration of health records through Obamacare, and now the way that we are going to be regulating CBDCs is just, it's terrifying. You will literally be tracked and traced in everything you do, through your health, through your finances, through everything you do from beginning to end.
It's scary. It really, really is scary. And, one of the things that, people don't even realize is, remember about 20 years ago, you had a phone where you could take the battery out and literally completely take it off, and you could swap batteries, have a second battery that was fully charged. They make these phones now to where you cannot take the battery out. So even when the phone is dead, it'll track every single movement, where you go, where you stop at, how long you were there. Even if your phone's been dead for days, there's enough little bit of electricity inside of there to track your every single movement. And that right there is already a show that we have such government overreach that they track every single move. Let's dive a little bit into why this Genius Act is going to change possibly America forever if we don't do something to stop it.
Well, so the Genius Act, what it does is it creates regulatory framework for digital currency, for crypto. And what happened is a few years back, they tried CBDCs, and one of the big rollouts that they tried, it was in Nigeria. They tried it, they tested it out there, and people rejected it so badly that the people supporting CBDCs ended up having to go back to the drawing board. Now, the World Economic Forum has long been doing this through public-private partnerships. The reason that they're pushing that is because it works so well legally. So from a legal perspective, what you got to understand is you've got you've got certain rights to privacy. You have to have a warrant to dig into someone's records. You have to have this, you have to have that. But those rights to privacy can be waived, right? So when you pick this thing up, when you first buy your cell phone, you see a whole bunch of things, and it says, I accept, and there's all these user agreements. Well, each one of those, they're contracts. And in those contracts, you're waiving your rights for all sorts of things. And so your cell phone provider is going to track your location. They're going to track your data. They're going to track this. They're going to track that. And once you've waived that right, it's then public information. So the government can then track that data, even though they don't have a warrant, because it's now public information. Now, they're not supposed to without a reason, but they can say we're analyzing metadata, or we're doing this, or we're doing that. And when you have a giant AI system that looks at everything, the way that gets analyzed is quite different. What's going to happen is now with this infrastructure that we're putting in place, and there was an accompanying bill that was passed also saying that they're not going to allow CBDCs. Okay, we need to understand what's happening here. CBDCs for end users they won't be called CBDCs, right? They're not going to call it CBDCs because we wouldn't do it. But what they're going to do is they're going to regulate certain types of crypto in a way where they get all of your data. where all of it becomes publicly available data that can be bought and sold. And so the federal government will end up having access to 100% of your data. They will know everything about you, and it will all be tracked and traced, even though it's not going to be called a CBDC.
Well, they're going to rename it and they're going to make it something pretty, and they're going to do it all in the name of safety. This is the way that we end. This is the way that we end child sex trafficking. This is the way that we end the drug trade. Guys, we're going to be able, and again, you and I both know, you go to somewhere like Chicago, right, where you take away people's rights to own guns, and why do they have more shootings and more killings in Chicago than anywhere else in the United States? Because the citizens don't have a right to defend themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And you're exactly right. So the federal government already has access to certain data, your financial data through anti-money laundering laws and different ways to track your cash, right? Now, the problem is that that's very incomplete, because right now we still use cash. So the criminal element of the world particularly loves cash because it's untraceable. So what happens is, if you're going to be a drug dealer, you're not going to sell your crack on a credit card, right? Because it's easily traceable. It's a cash transaction. The government will use this excuse to say, well, we need to track and trace for certain instances. The problem is, though, is that the data is going to be, it's either accessible or it's not, and it's going to be accessible. And so that the anti-money laundering laws and other, they're going to allow access to this data. And then they'll use some legal trickery to make it look like they're gathering metadata, gathering this, gathering that. And then you'll see essentially what will become a CBDC system through public-private partnerships. The private cryptos that you're going to see are things from your big banks and your big tech companies, big this, big that. They're going to offer stablecoin private crypto, which, listen, crypto's coming. You might as well get on the crypto train. It's going to be here whether you like it or not. There's nothing we can do to stop crypto. What we're talking about now is not stopping it, because that train's out the door. It's gone. We can't stop it. What we can do, though, is we can push from a regulatory and legal perspective to try and protect privacy as much as possible. Now, it's going to be an illusion, because at the end of the day, the AI systems that are running the internet are going to know everything. But the more that we can build into the law, the more privacy protections we can build into the law, the safer we, the people, the public, are going to be. And that's really kind of where we're at right now, which is a sad statement, but it's the truth.
Well, I can guarantee you that if Congress was getting rich, 10 years ago on owning stocks that they were invested in and the things that they were voting the lobby, I really want to just be able to have access to whichever cryptocurrency Nancy Pelosi is investing in.
Yeah, you sure do. I'm pretty sure that would be a good investment tip if you had it. This is going to be a disaster, Mike. This is going to be a disaster, because what you got to understand is, let's say that we have certain privacy protections, some basic protections here, basic protections there. Well, look at the size of the federal government. Look at the Patriot Act and some of these other corrupt things that we have, and look at what happened with COVID. COVID was really a test run on a lot of different fronts, and rules and laws related to public-private partnership were one of those areas. So during COVID, you saw the Biden administration telling groups like Facebook, like Twitter, pick your crew, hey, you're going to censor this guy, you're going to censor these guys, right? And then Twitter or Facebook would dutifully do that, right? And when we went to court because we were censored, we would sue Twitter or Facebook, and they'd say, well, we're a private company. We can decide to publish or not publish whatever we want. And they're right. Under the law, they can, right? But the problem is that the government was the one that was pushing that, but the private company was acting as an intermediary that blocked us to remedy under the law. That's going to be the same thing that happens with the CBDCs. The government's going to track and get all this data because these private entities are just going to give it to them, because they're going to get leaned on by the next corrupt administration there is. And there'll be another one. Listen, I understand we got Trump right now, but you're going to have another Democrat in office at some point. There's going to be another bad guy in there. Biden wasn't the last. That's going to happen. They're going to lean on these different companies that have all these different cryptos with all these different laws, and they're going to get this data. And they're going to say, hey, Those moms speaking out at the school board meeting, they're probably domestic terrorists. So we need to really limit their ability to use their money to buy guns, for example, or to travel or whatever. I mean, that sort of a scenario is not only not hard to imagine, it's already tested. They tested it with the censorship stuff during COVID. And you have to understand from a legal perspective, the parallel is exact. I mean, I understand we're talking about CBDCs and censorship, but in both cases, you're going to have government actors using private actors as essentially an intermediary or block to get around the law.
And again, to my audience, this is not about fear. All right. This is about bringing attention to what is happening and where it could go. As easily as they were able to seize the money from those truckers who were up in Canada, right? Remember, they were protesting the vaccine mandates. They were freezing their crypto and they were freezing their bank. We created GoFundMes for them and they froze that. So this is exactly the same thing that's happening with the AI rollout and the surveillance. It's all tied in together, and if you read through that big, beautiful bill, there are some great things that it covers, but it also is talking about a complete AI surveillance, and that is eventually where they want it to be. And now you start to understand why people in Europe are burning their 5G towers.
Yeah, there's no question. And that is where it's going. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're going to have is the AI can surveil much more effectively than humans can. It's omnipresent, essentially. But it can only surveil what it has access to as far as data. That's the goal here. And what the legislation is doing is opening up back doors for that. So this Genius Act was a disaster. MTG was opposing it, and she did a great job, and she wanted legislation to stop CBDCs. The problem is when they stop the CBDCs, they're stopping them in name only, because CBDCs aren't going to be what everybody thinks they are. It's not the central bank digital currency that you have to worry about. It's the private controlled crypto that's working through and with the central bank digital currency that you have to worry about, right? So that privately controlled crypto, especially the stable coins, which they're talking about in the Genius Act, well, they're marked to our currency, right? And so there's some legal ties there that are occurring that open the door for kind of this backdoor regulation, backdoor analysis. Crypto as a concept was supposed to be decentralized, right? So crypto, you've got your encrypted and totally decentralized, virtual money that you keep in your virtual wallet. Now, I'm a big fan of gold and things like that. So, I mean, I'm not sure that that's a great thing, but that's kind of where that is. But then remember, you have to spend that money. Well, where do you spend it? You spend it on an exchange, right? Now, what if that money is a special type of crypto? What if it's a stable coin? What if it's tied to something, right? Well, that creates backdoor mechanisms by which it can be tracked or traced. All these different things are going to be occurring. And unless we have a truly separate, truly encrypted, truly alternative crypto marketplace where people can exchange money, exchange goods, exchange services for a truly privatized crypto, then we're going to just have universal CBDC surveillance on everything, because that is where it'll go. And because the government has so much power, because of the way they're doing this, and because of the way the marketplace is going to work, where we only have, I mean, listen, we've killed small business. If there were 1 million small businesses out there, maybe a bunch of them join and they back a privatized crypto that's a true private crypto. Now, we destroyed all the small business with COVID. So now it's just, you've got, 10, 15 big businesses in any given market, and they control the world. So it's much easier to control. So through the kind of vertical monopolies that exist, and through some of these different things that have occurred, there's really not going to be an alternative.
Right. And then if you look, one of the things that most people aren't thinking about, and I'm not saying that they're not forward thinking, but they just may not be thinking about this. When you consider, look at China, right, with the digital yuan that they've done, that already includes programmable futures, surveillance, even behavior-based privileges. So when you start looking at it on that scale, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't we looking at the CBDCs would be able to basically bypass local banks. They would be able to really control interest rates. Like within a minute, they could flip on a switch and they can bypass not only commercial breaks, but you're talking about stimulus, personal accounts, and they're basically giving unprecedented power to the financial system.
Well, 100%. Not only that, I mean, think of what could be done from a tax perspective, right? Let's say that you've got a new Biden administration or Harris administration type crew comes in there, and they can't outlaw the Second Amendment, right? They can't outlaw guns, but they don't want you to have guns. So what they do is they put in a new progressive tax. You can buy one bullet at a normal tax rate, but if you want to buy 5 bullets, it's going to go up to 50% tax rate. If you want to buy 10 bullets, it's going to go to 100%. If you want to buy 20, it's going to go to 1,000%. And basically, they can use these very individualized, very controlled tax structures to ensure that you buy what you want. I mean, you want to fill your car up with gas? Well, hopefully you haven't met your quota, right? Because if you've met your quota, you can still buy it, but you're going to pay 1,000% tax, right? So you've got these different mechanisms. And by the way, we, the government, we need access to everybody's financial data on this to make sure they're properly paying taxes. Well, that legally, they've got grounds for that. And legally, they've got the authority to create these specific tax systems or these kind of crazy tax structures. These are things and mechanisms of control that our founding fathers could never have predicted or thought possible. So we're going to end up needing, probably a constitutional amendment, and at minimum, a bunch of legislation passed to protect ourselves on this. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to wake up one day and we're just going to have lost our freedom on a massive scale. And it's going to, the question is it going to be too late?
It probably is if we don't stand up and stop it. It reminds me of what you were just talking about with the tax hike, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man! It's predictive programming. They always talk about it, right? They have to let us know what they're doing before they do it. I think it was about probably 10 or 15 years ago, there was a skit by Dave Chappelle, and he goes, they're just going to raise the price of ammunition to $1 million a bullet. He's like, and when I go out, he goes, you go out and shoot somebody. He's like, I think I'll be out there prying out the bullet with a knife and be like, I believe you have a piece of my property.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's very possibly accurate. It can happen. There's no legal reason that our government can't create this progressive tax system where taxes increase based on the amount that you purchase. There's been some discussion of different things, and it's not widespread. It's not real well acknowledged, but they are going to tell you that that's what they're going to do. They're just going to do it, right? But the progressive tax structures, combined with the ability to regulate and manage every single transaction on the planet, which AI allows, right? Part of the reason that our tax structure is so generalized right now is because, well, what are you going to do? Look at everybody's financial records? But when you have an AI quantum computing system managing the financial system, yeah, that is what you're going to do because you can, right? And that's where, they won't call it a social credit score, but that's precisely what it is, right? You're going to have certain transactions that are favored, certain that are disfavored, and you're going to live with it.
Yeah, it's very, very scary. The next minute or two, let's definitely dive into how we can help support what you guys are doing. I know you've been helping a couple big groups that are out there. Praise God that Pam Bondi decided to drop the charges against Dr. Kirk Moore. I think that would have been an absolute... I know you were following that closely, but whether it was to shift from the Epstein files not getting released, partially released, only credible parts that we can be released. Israel's involved, they're not involved. There's a handler, it's a Russian hoax. Where is the credibility? What can we believe? And that's the scariest thing is now you've got Elon Musk out there trying to create a whole other party, which is only going to further divide the Republican Party. You say goodbye to a Republican ever winning again if they do that, because it'll be so torn that the Democrats will be stronger than they ever have. But yeah, the Dr. Kirk Moore thing was beautiful. How can we reach you? How can we follow you? Give us your Substack, your handles, and just any way that we can support your work.
Well, first and foremost, we need donations. We really function off donations. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. That really helps us a lot. Please support us at TomRenz.com. If you shop our partners and affiliates, including Maha Mike, which is on there, by the way, you go up to shop and you click partners and affiliates, and you'll find Mike there. But when you support our partners and affiliates, you support us, right? This is how we do it. Speaking of crypto, there you go, Block Trust. You can add it to your IRA. Dulcis, we got a whole bunch of good people there, right? We got a lot of good people. And by the way, we check everybody. We don't work with anybody I don't like. If we don't, if you're not a decent human being, we're not working with you. But TomRenz.com, and you have to type TomRenz.com. You can't Google Tom Renz. You just get hit pieces. But support us there, TomRenz.com, GiveSendGo.com, TomRenz.substack.com. We're all over the place. Check us out on social media, on X, @RenzTom. We actually are pushing on Instagram right now, trying to get an Instagram account. I'm surprisingly not censored on Instagram. It's been very shocking to me. So, it's just support us on social media. I think I'm Attorney Tom Renz on Instagram. I'm not sure. But support us everywhere. Help us get the word out. Listen, we're taking the hard fight. We've been calling Trump out on what he's doing with this Epstein stuff. Trump to me is getting misled. Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles both worked together at Ballard Partners. They were both very, very active in supporting a bunch of globalist crews and a bunch of foreign crews and this, that, and other. Pam worked for Pfizer as an attorney. She represented them as an attorney. There's a lot of people around Trump that I don't trust. I love Trump. We support Trump. We back Trump. But Trump's human, and he's got bad advisors. He had them in his first term, Bill Barr, Mike Pence, Miley. He's got some this term, in my opinion, too. We've got to, if we want to back Trump, if we want to support Trump, we have to speak truth to power. We have to talk to him about what's going on. We have to raise our voices, just like we're doing with Epstein, just like we're doing across the board. The truth doesn't care who it's spoken to. The truth is the truth is the truth. And that's what we've got to pursue. We got to stand on. But please be aware of this crypto issue, the CBDC issue. This is a phenomenal thing. Crypto, it's coming. You might as well accept that. What you need to do is we need to make sure that we're fighting for the rights to preserve privacy in our financial transactions, because we're already going to digital. By the way, every time you use a credit card, you're basically using digital currency. I mean, you're not going to notice the difference between a digital currency and a credit card at some point in the future. That's all going to be the same thing. So 100%. You're not going to see the difference. It's just going to be on the backside. And what's going to happen is you're going to wake up one day, you're going to go try and buy a gun, fill up your car with gas, buy some red meat, and so they're going to say, sorry, you've met your quota.
You met your quota for the day. Well, guys, that concludes what we have for today. Thank you so much, Tom Renz. We're going to continue to pray for you, pray for your wife, pray for your family. And on top of that, we're going to pray that the security cameras are super updated on Ghislaine Maxwell's jail cell. And with that, we'll see you on another episode of Maha Mike.
See you, Mike.